Hi, readers. It's Miss Winter here to read the beginning of the next chapter in I Love You, Michael Collins. If you recall from the last chapter with Mrs. B, Mammy's mom and dad are still gone. Eleanor, her sister, is not there either. And now her sister Bess has left to go stay with her boyfriend Vinny. So Buster decided to spend the day with her, and they were preparing a cake for the moonwalk party. And as the chapter ended, Mammy was going to sleep in her parents' bedroom by the air conditioning, and it was the night before the moon landing. So let's start with the next chapter. Sunday, July 20th, 1969. Dear Michael Collins, I've got to tell you something, and I'm not sure if even you know it yet, but it's this. Just when you think the worst thing that could possibly happen happens, something else will happen that's even worse to wipe that right off your radar. This morning, with no one left here but me and Campbell, I got up, brushed my teeth, and went down for breakfast. Before pouring a hearty bowl of Fruit Loops for myself, I opened the back door just to see what the weather was going to be like today. And that's when it happened. You may have recalled me telling you about my cat, Campbell, and how she is an indoor cat unless I carry her outside. Well, as soon as I opened the door, she scooted right past me. And even though, as I have perhaps also told you, she has been getting fat and slow, no matter how I chased her, no matter how loud I called for her, after a time I had to admit that I simply could not find her anywhere. First my mom, then my dad, then Eleanor, then Bess, now Campbell. Do you know what happened next, Michael Collins? I will tell you. I stood in the driveway and screamed. And what I had to say was, "What is wrong with you people? And cats!" Followed by, "Doesn't anybody stay with the ship anymore?" That is what I said, Michael Collins. And I am not even ashamed of myself because it is, in the end, simply the truth. Doesn't anyone stay with the ship anymore? After my dad left a few days ago, and I shouted in the driveway, I felt so bad afterward that I hurried inside, shutting the door behind me. Now I didn't care who heard me screaming. But I did have to go back inside the house. I needed to get ready so I wouldn't be late for church with Buster's family. As I neared the door, I could hear the phone ringing. I hurried to pick it up, but of course, when I did, only a dial tone was there. I stared at the phone, hoping whoever had tried would call again, but that didn't happen. I was so lonely in that moment. I thought about calling my mom or Eleanor, Bess even, but I pushed that idea away. They left me. If they cared, they could call me. Still, I stared at the phone a moment longer, hoping. Eventually, I had to just give up and go get dressed. I was so worried for Campbell, I had to keep brushing tears away as I looked for something appropriate to wear. But then I decided to push the worry somewhere deep inside myself where no one could see it. If Buster's mom saw me with tears all over my face, she'd be bound to start asking questions. And if I started talking, who knew what might come out of my mouth? So I went on autopilot again. You know what I'm talking about. As I went through the items in my closet and drawers, nothing looked right to me. Everything looked so babyish. The dresses with lace collars and other stupid stuff. I wanted something better than that, more grown up. I wanted something in red and white and blue to honor what was going to happen later. That's when I got the idea of raiding my mom's closet. Normally, Michael Collins, I would not go in there, and I certainly would never take her things, not without permission. But there was no one here for me to ask, and I'm sure you will agree and forgive me when I say I am no longer living in normal times. As soon as I pulled the metal cord on the overhead light bulb, I knew I'd made the right decision. For there, hanging right in front of me, was a pencil skirt in the reddest of reds. When I put it on, of course it was too big for me, too long and so loose in the waist that it fell right down off my hips. And because it was getting so close to leaving time, I couldn't hem it or take it in at the waist. Not that I'm much good with a needle and thread. Whenever I've tried to make an outfit for one of my dolls from discarded fabric, it has never come out quite as planned. But that was okay. I just folded that skirt a couple of times at the waistband, and that raised it right up. Plus, all the folding made it tighter at the waist. When I found a belt to hold the folds in place and cinched it together, you could barely see any lumpy bunching. For a shirt, I found the perfect thing. One of my mom's sleeveless, button-down linen shirts she wears in the summer with Bermuda shorts. This one was in the purest white. And if it was a little big, too, again, so what? At least it would cover any bunches still at my waist from the skirt. And then, for navy blue, I grabbed one of my headbands, and I even took the time to position it right so that there were no stray clumps of hair in odd places. Finally, I briefly considered taking a pair of my mom's high heels. They'd never fit, but I could always put some tissue paper in the toes like I used to do when I was younger and liked to play wedding. But I immediately rejected that idea. I didn't want to look like I was trying too hard. Besides, kids really do go with everything. They are just fantastic like that. Then I went and stared at the phone again, willing it to ring, right up until Buster knocked for me, wearing his navy blue church suit and telling me that it was time. I told him about Campbell taking off on me too, and I could see the immediate concern on his face, but we didn't even have time to discuss it because his parents were waiting in the car. A part of me wanted to tell him to go on without me. I was sure that whoever had called would try again, but I couldn't do that. Some things you have to leave home for, and I just couldn't miss church. Not today. I had to go and pray for you. So I took the phone off the hook and went outside with Buster. That's an interesting outfit you have on, Mrs. Whitaker said when I climbed in the car with Buster. Thank you, ma'am, I said. How come you're not going to church with your own family today? Because I figured if could work for her, it could work for me too. Getting ready. This was not, strictly speaking, a lie. Wherever they were, they had to be getting ready for something. Aren't people always? Oh, she said, a question. We're having a moonwalk party tonight, I said. So what if this was in no way connected to whatever my parents might be getting ready for? This was also still a true statement. Our house was having a moonwalk party tonight. It was nice of you to invite Buster to that, she said. We're having one too. Isn't that exciting? I agreed that it was. At least since we're both having parties, she said gaily, neither house will get upset at the noise the other house is making. I agreed that this was true too, although somehow I doubted our house would be as noisy as theirs. I have to tell you, going to a church you are not accustomed to is a strange thing. Sure, I recognize some kids from school at Buster's family's church. Some kids from school go to my family's church too, although obviously not the same kids who go to Buster's. But the way the church was decorated was different, and the tunes to the hymns were different. Even what people stood up for and sat down for were different, so much so that I found myself constantly struggling not to fall too far off the tempo. And of course, the preacher was different. "Let us bow our heads and pray," the preacher said. "Our Heavenly Father, we ask that you protect those 3 brave men, that you guide Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin down to the moon and back again, and that you return all 3 astronauts safely back to Earth. We ask this in your name. Amen." I tried not to hold it against the preacher that he didn't mention you specifically by name. To him, you were just one of all 3 astronauts. Well, you and I both know you're better than that. As I looked around the church at the people there, praying for you, it occurred to me that across the country, maybe even the whole planet, just about everyone alive, no matter what their religion, must be praying for your safety today. I wondered if my dad was one of those people. When you lifted off a few days ago, that look I saw in his face, I think he saw something in that moment that he had never seen before. So I think he, too, must be praying for you now, Michael Collins. I'm almost sure of it. After praying with everyone else for the astronauts, I said a silent prayer to myself for Campbell. I hope you don't think that's wrong, putting a cat so high up there with people. But she is just a little girl cat, and now she is alone out there in the world. Plus, she was the only family member I had left when I got up this morning. When the car pulled into Buster's driveway a short time after leaving church, Mrs. Whitaker leaned over the seat to look back at me. "Would you like to stay for Sunday dinner, Mammy?" she asked. Oh, how I would have liked to say yes. Just thinking about all that Sunday dinner could entail. Probably some kind of roast, definitely mashed potatoes, a green vegetable that hopefully wasn't too horrible and wouldn't be if it was swimming in butter, and maybe pie or ice cream for dessert, maybe even both pie and ice cream. Thinking about it made my mouth water. Plus, thinking about it made me realize how long it had been since an adult had made a proper meal for me. Well, Eleanor made me that cold chicken salad, but that hardly felt like the same thing now. Still, tempting as it was, I couldn't accept. "Thank you, ma'am," I said, but no thank you. I opened the car door and stepped out. I need to go get ready for the party tonight. Thank you for taking me to church. You're welcome, Mammy. What time would you like Buster over? 7 o'clock would be good, I said, and turning to my best friend added, See you then, Buster. And then I was slamming the door shut and running through the stand of trees separating our properties. Before going inside, I searched all over for Campbell again, but to no avail. Once inside, I went and put the phone in the kitchen back on the hook. Right then and there, I decided that whatever was going to happen with the phone was going to happen, and there wasn't a single thing I could do about that. I turned on the portable fan and started looking for the fancy toothpicks, the ones with colorful frilly cellophane on the edges, to use later on with the cocktail franks. The phone rang, but it was Buster, telling me all about the Eagle undocking from the Columbia. All right, readers, that is where we are going to end for today. This is a pretty long chapter, so it might take us another day or two to finish this up. So now you'll need to go back into Canvas and make sure to answer the discussion question there. Thanks for listening.